1 Kings chapter 7. Now King Solomon sent and brought Hiram from Tyre. He was the son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a bronze worker. He was filled with skill, understanding, and knowledge, in working with all kinds of bronze work. So he was brought to King Solomon and did all his work. He cast 2 pillars for the porch of the house, each one 18 cubits high, and a line of 14 cubits measured the circumference of each, and the thickness was 4 fingers to the hollow portion, and the second pillar was similar. Then he made 2 capitals of cast bronze to set on the tops of the pillars. The height of one capital was 5 cubits, and the height of the other 5 cubits. He made 2 lattice works to cover the capitals on top of the pillars, a lattice work for one capital and a lattice work for the other capital. And he made a hanging work, 2 rows of cast copper pomegranates, a hanging work, row upon row, and he did the same for the other capital. Then he set up the pillars by the vestibule of the temple. He set up the pillar on the right and called it Jachin, and he set up the pillar on the left and called it Boaz. The capitals on the pillars in the hall were in the shape of lilies, 4 cubits high. There was a roof on both pillars, and beyond the sides was a capital, 1 beam in thickness. He made the sea of cast bronze, 10 cubits, from one brim to the other. It was completely round. It was 5 cubits high and 30 cubits around the circumference. Below its brim were supporters encircling it all around, 10 cubits high, all the way around to hold up the sea. Its mouth was as the mouth of a drinking vessel, a lily blossom, and it was a handbreadth in thickness. There were 12 oxen under the sea. 3 looked toward the north, 3 looked toward the west, 3 looked toward the south, and 3 looked toward the east. All their back parts pointed inward, and the sea was set upon them. He also made 10 bases of bronze. Each base was 5 cubits long, 4 cubits wide, and 6 cubits high. This was the design of the bases. They had panels, and the panels were between the reliefs. The reliefs were lions, oxen, and cherubim. Above and below the lions and oxen were spaces for a hanging work. Every base had 4 bronze wheels, and the attachments to the wash basins were bronze, with 4 parts to them, and supports under each wash basin, and axles of bronze, and the height of one wheel was 1.5 cubits. The workmanship of the wheels was like the workmanship of a chariot wheel. Their axle pins, their rims, their spokes, and their hubs were all of cast bronze. There were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each base. Its supports were part of the base itself. On the top of the base, at the height of 0.5 cubit, it was perfectly round. And on the top of the base, its axles and its panels were of the same casting. On its panels he engraved cherubim, lions, and palm trees, wherever there was a clear space on each, and they went all around. Thus he made the 10 bases. There was 1 pattern and 1 measure in all of them. Then he made 10 wash basins of bronze. Each wash basin contained 40 baths. On each of the 10 bases was a wash basin. He put 5 bases on the right side of the house and 5 on the left side of the house. He set the sea on the right side of the house, toward the southeast. Hiram made the wash basin, the shovels, and the bowls. So Hiram finished doing all the work he was to do for King Solomon for the house of the Lord. The 2 pillars, the 2 bowl-shaped capitals on top of the 2 pillars, the 2 lattice works covering the 2 bowl-shaped capitals on top of the pillars, 400 pomegranates for the 2 lattice works, 2 rows of pomegranates for each lattice work, to cover the 2 bowl-shaped capitals on top of the pillars. the 10 bases and 10 wash basins on the bases, 1 sea and 12 oxen under the sea, the pots, the shovels, and all the equipment. Hiram made all these articles for King Solomon for the house of the Lord. All the works Hiram made for the king, the 48 pillars of the king's house, and the house of the Lord, were entirely of bronze. There was no measure of the bronze from which he made all these works in such great number. There was no limit to the measure of the bronze. In the plain of Jordan, the king had them cast in clay molds between Succoth and Seir. Thus Solomon dedicated all the furnishings he made for the house of the Lord: the altar of gold, the table on which was the showbread, also of gold, the lampstands of pure gold, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left in front of the inner sanctuary, with the oil containers, the lamps, and the wick trimmers of gold, the doorways, the nails, the bowls, the dishes, and the censers of pure gold, and the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner room, that is, the Holy of Holies, and for the doors of the main hall of the temple. So all the work King Solomon did for the Lord's house was finished, and Solomon brought in the holy things of his father David, and all the holy things of Solomon, the silver and gold furnishings. He put them in the treasuries of the Lord's house. Now Solomon took 13 years to build his own house. He built his house with wood of Lebanon. Its length was 100 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits, with 3 rows of cedar pillars and cedar beams on the pillars. He roofed the house with cedar above the beams on 45 pillars, 15 to a row. There were 3 beams and a joint upon a joint, 3 times over. All the doorways and doorposts had rectangular frames, and the windows were opposite one another in 3 tiers. He also made the porch of pillars. It was 50 cubits long and 30 cubits wide. In front of them was a portico with pillars, and a canopy was in front of them. Then he made a porch for the throne, the hall of judgment, where he might judge. The house where he dwelt had 1 courtyard that had access to these, of similar workmanship. Solomon also made a house across from this porch for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken as wife. All these things were made out of costly stones that had been fastened at the spaces inside, and at the foundation up to the eaves, and outside as far as the great courtyard, where the foundation was laid with huge costly stones, 10 cubits and 8 cubits high, very costly according to measure, uncut, and with cedars. For the great courtyard round about there were 3 rows uncut, and a row fastened with cedar. And Solomon completed his whole house.